Okay, so the first step is we've got you're up standing on a hard, smooth surface so that the tracing can be done accurately. All right, we're going to start with this foot and just put the foot in the middle of the paper. Note I didn't say right or left. It's much easier just to tap and go this foot, you know, whatever. It makes it much less confusing for the person. All right, the first thing we're going to do is just trace around the foot. And what you want is the tracing block not to compress the foot, so it'd be like that, just barely touching. And it's perpendicular all the time to the foot. In other words, when we get up here, we're not going to keep it like this, or we're not going to drag it like this, because we're looking at this surface to that pen point. Okay, so we're going to start with the tracing, and I always start around the back and gently move it around so it just barely touches the foot. And then it's easier to go this way around the toes than this way because it catches the toes. This way it glides more easily over the toes, and I will stop right there. Now I'm going to come from the back again, and I kind of overlap in the heel a little bit. And again, see how I'm holding it perpendicular to the foot and barely touching the foot so you're not compressing the foot at all, just getting a nice shadow image of the foot. Now in him, you might notice that the toenail kind of curves up. So you could put a little note there, toenail curves up if you want. Okay, the next part, what we're going to do is take a Sharpie and just feel back and forth for the center of the first metatarsal head. We'll do the same for the fifth metatarsal head. So the metatarsals are first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Now what I'm going to do is, okay, so now what I'm going to do is take that mark I put on the foot and just transfer it down to the paper as a straight line. And I'll do the same for the first metatarsal head as well. I use the edge of the tracing block as a square. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do excuse me, are the girth measurements. So what I'm going to have them do is always keep the heel on the paper so that we don't lose the location in relation to the foot in relation to the tracing, and then lift the forefoot up just enough that I can get the tape under, and I'll line it up so that I'm centered over those marks, and then I'll ask him to sight himself back onto the tracing, and that was perfect. Now I'm going to mark the position of the tape. This is very important because when I get the tracing back, I'm going to select what I believe to be the proper last initially, and then I'm going to measure that last in the exact same place that you measured the foot. So that's why it's so important to measure that. And the measurements are all in millimeters. He's at 261 millimeters. Okay, now lift up the forefoot, and I'm going to slide it back to the position where the top strap would go on the bike shoe, the highest point right here. And it's just at the back end of the fifth metatarsal head. You can see where it kind of curves in again. You don't want to have it too far up like here. You'd want to have it so it comes right across this part of the foot. And note that it's parallel to the forefoot measurement. Okay, so we're going to come around, take the measurement, and again, when you take the measurement, kind of like the tracing, we don't want to compress the foot. Just take the slack out of the tape. And I saw that it was 261, but I'm going to mark the position of the tape and put this at 261. Okay, now that one can stay down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the back of the heel up to the point where I took that other measurement. So I'm going to set the tape down on the back of the heel like that, and then measure back around to here. Make sure the tape stays down. And we're at 360. And I just marked that one at the back of the heel. Don't have to mark where the tape was because we know where it was. Okay, now lift up the foot. That's the completed tracing for the first foot. Now what I'm going to do is have you put the other foot comfortably next to the other, turn the paper over, put the foot on the center of the paper again, tracing. Again, I start on the back of the heel, work my way around. Past the toes, just stop right in there. Now I'm going to come from the back of the heel again, gently touching the foot, not compressing the foot. Come around in front of the toe. This toe is really important because this is the measurement that I'll use to calculate how long the shoe will be for you. Just want to make sure that that's good. Okay. Now again, we're going to mark the 5th metatarsal head and the 1st. Now we're going to transfer those marks to the paper. Okay, so now I'm going to have you lift up just the forefoot. I'm going back and forth to where I feel I'm centered on the marks. Okay, sight yourself back onto the tracing. Perfect. Marking the tape. .267. Note that I'm going to the 0 mark, not the end of the tape. Be sure and use the 0 mark. I had that extra bit of tape there so that when you do some of these other measurements, lift up the forefoot. There you go. You can hold the tape a little easier. I'm going to mark the tape. Take this measurement. We're at 258 on this one. This instep's a little bit lower. Normally you can just pull it out if they have, unless the foot's completely flat. You don't have to have them lifted up again. Now we're going to do I'm going to do one more measurement here. He's got kind of a high arch. So what I'm going to do is put that 0 mark right on the edge, right on the line of the foot, the tracing there, in the same place that the other one was. Then what I'm going to do is come around and get a measurement here, and we're at 190. So this is just an up and over, and then when I get the tracing back, I'll add in the distance from this line to the outside line and add it onto there, and then I have a whole volume measurement, including that dead air space in here. Now we're at, whoops, that one's the same, 360. Okay, that looks good. You can step off the paper. Now you may have noticed I forgot to do that second measurement on the other one. So what I'm going to do is have him, let me get this back in position here first. Okay, now you can feel the back of the heel with that, and then just kind of sight yourself back onto the tracing. There we go. So that way you can, you can see how you can take a step back and still be accurate. So now we're going to put that 0 mark on the line, come back over here, and on this one it's 200. So that's a little bit higher instep, and you can see here he's got a little more dead air space in there. So that now we can have that whole volume measurement, which will help me calculate the strap length much more accurately. Okay, you can step off the paper, and that is done for the tracing. Now remember, the thin foam we do as a verification of the tracing. So I'm going to take that out. And I will just set this aside for now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I will line his foot up over the foam and have him gently step down. Don't jump on your foot. Just step down so you're standing just like this. And notice how he bent the knee. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, now gently put your foot down. Okay, and just gently step down onto it so you assume Equal weight on both feet. And bend your knees forward a little bit so you push forward. Okay, there we go. Okay, that one's done. You can step off. And that's all we need for that. From that, I can calculate from the back of the heel to the center of the ball of the foot and get a very accurate measurement to calculate cleat position. I'll do that for both feet, average them out, and 95% of that measurement is where the cleat will go. Okay, now we're going to do the other one. And you want them about, again, about in the center of this thing, just like the tracing was done, okay? And then bend the knee forward a little bit. There we go. And I just make sure the toes are down. You don't want to really press it down and distort the impression, but just kind of make sure that they're all the way into the foam. Okay, you can step off. Perfect. All right, that's it for that phase. One more thing while we're up here on the stand, let's put the marks on for the depth gauge. So what we're going to, for the foam, crush box foam. So what I'm going to do is just put a mark back here. Just a little one. It doesn't have to be big. All right, that's it. We're going to find a chair so that we can have about a right angle at the knee here, and we're going to want the knees pointing straight ahead and the feet in line with that. So in other words, you don't want the foot out like this or in, just, all nice and aligned. And then have them scoot out to the edge of the seat. Okay, so this is all done seated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line his foot up over the center of the foam, and I'll press his foot down into the foam once the alignment's proper. And don't try to help. You don't want to try the person to help push into the foam. The assistant should do everything. Okay, lift up this foot, and it's easier to put it on the extra foam to the outside. And the weight of their leg on there is actually helpful to keep it positioned. I go back and forth until it looks like a nice alignment all the way through here, like it's not duck-footed, not pigeon-toed, not twisting his knee. That should feel comfortable right there. The first press, I'm going to put a hand on top of the knee, and you notice this one doesn't fit and this doesn't fit. It's awkward. This fits on top of the knee, and then this hand fits over the top of the forefoot. And simultaneously, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down into the foam so that this mark is about 1/4 of an inch above the level of the foam. The forefoot will go all the way down until it just stops. That's the initial push. And now what I'm going to do is make sure each toe is pushed down, and I'm also going to make sure that each metatarsal head is pushed down. Because you want the metatarsal heads all the way down so that they're all on the same plane. And now the final part is where I'll push right here until that line is just level with the foam. There we go. And then grab the person's foot here and just lift straight up. And that's it. So we didn't go all the way to the bottom of the box. The forefoot is, so let me just look at his foot and then lift your heel up about 1/4 of an inch or so. So that's kind of the final position we're looking for while it's in the foam. Metatarsal heads all on the same plane, and the heel is floating in the foam so I can see the shape of the heel. Okay, now we're on to the next foot. Again, I'm going to move it back and forth until I can see that it's not pushing his knee, or everything looks in alignment all the way through. And again, this hand fits on top of the knee, and this fits on the foot really, really well. So I'm going to simultaneously push down. And then the final push is right here. Okay, lift straight up. And that's it. That's the entire fitting process.